foot elevated goblet reverse lunge. So just took 245s here and stacked them up to give me a little bit of an elevated surface. And then I prefer to hold a kettlebell for the goblet position versus a dumbbell. But pretty much you can use any weight as long as you're loading it in the front half of your body. And the reason we're doing that elevated surface is twofold. So one, we're gonna get into a little bit more range of motion between the front hip and the rear hip due to us being in an elevated position. And then two, we're gonna get a little bit more bias toward our glute due to typically having our torso come forward just a tiny bit at that bottom position. So you can kind of play with the height relative to your mobility. If you're someone who's really limited in hip flexion, hip extension, you can just go with a very small elevation, like a 1 inch or no elevation. If you're someone who mobility is not an issue, a little bit of a higher surface will create a little bit more of a stretching effect in a muscle. So when you get the weight up top, doing my best when I'm in a goblet position to not just lean back. I want to stay tall, big breath in, and then I'm going to go to that reverse position, trying to get as deep as I can, step back out of it, and go in again. And typically what we'll do is we'll do all the reps on one side before we switch back over. You're trying to avoid leaning way forward, trying to avoid leaning way back. And then the last piece is how wide you're going. So on the front on view, people will kind of try to cross over and they'll get all out of balance. You want to keep your feet still hip width apart so that way you're able to maintain good positioning and stability to move through a range of motion.